Now, Manchester United's season has been full of drama, punctuated by disappointment throughout. It's certain to be the shortest season in terms of games in more than a century. The question now is who will take on the challenge of trying to rescue European football at the end of the season. Let's head live to Manchester and our reporter Dan Khan. And Dan, you have a development for us this evening.
Yeah, good evening, Rob. I can tell you Manchester United are close to agreeing terms with Michael Carrick for him to become their interim head coach until the end of the season. Now, we reported throughout the day that he was meant to meet United today to continue further talks about the role, but we've been told there's a broad agreement on many of the substantive issues with negotiations still ongoing. There's no final agreement just yet. I think discussions and conversations now focused on his backroom staff, what that looks like. Could it include Darren Fletcher, who's taken the team in their last two games? We'll wait and see. But the plan is for Carrick's new contract to run until the end of the season. And this is really what Manchester United wanted, is someone in place, more importantly, to take this team ahead of the Manchester derby on Saturday.
Well, as for that Manchester derby then on Saturday, Dan, how are Manchester United's preparations looking between now and then?
Yeah, look, they're going to have a few days off. I think that's the first thing to say, Rob. I mean, they've been off today, they'll be off tomorrow before returning to training on Wednesday, but before preparing for that big derby on Saturday. Now, a lot of that is down to what has been quite a congested Christmas fixture period. Of course, the Manchester United squad have also been quite stretched in terms of players away to AFCON, as well as numerous injuries as well. Luke Shaw, for example, was left out of the squad against Brighton yesterday just simply due to squad rotation. So look, they'll be trying to regather themselves ahead of training on Wednesday, that you would expect now Michael Carrick to take with his new look backroom staff. But look, they now need to, everything off the pitch looks like it's been sorted with Michael Carrick nearing ever closer to being their interim head coach. They now need to focus on the pitch and get some results in the league, because as you mentioned beforehand, that is their only focus this season. And Darren Fletcher said it yesterday, they have to focus and challenge for those Champions League places. And that starts with a pretty easy one, right? Manchester derby on Saturday.
Dan, thank you very much indeed. So, Clinton, it looks as though it is going to be Michael Carrick. Statistics would tell you that United would need around 69 points to finish fourth. 65 points usually is enough to get you fifth. From what you've seen of him in the EFL, has Michael Carrick got it in his locker to deliver 33 points and above? Yeah,
I think he's got it in his locker for sure. I think he did a good job at Middlesbrough in the EFL and done it ever so well. And I did think, when jobs were coming available like West Ham, I thought West Ham might look to Michael Carrick, a young manager. So, yeah, I think if he gets the job, I think it'd be a good appointment from now to the end of the season. Do I see him getting it long term? No. I think they need a serious manager. And I'm not saying Michael Carrick at the moment, but what I mean is a proven manager at that football club. But from now to the end of the season, I think Michael Carrick will be a really good appointment. But do I believe this squad of Man United players are good to get into that Champions League? Not at the moment, but the league is wide open. That's the problem. There's only 3 teams that are playing to their potential this season, and that's the 3 teams that are in the top 3 in the Premier League. Other than that, it's wide open this year.
Do you think that initially now there needs to be an adult conversation? I'm sure that this is part of the discussions they're having with Michael Carrick to say, this is it, 17 games, no more. That no matter what you do, there is no chance, unfortunately, of you getting the job full time.
But that's a tough question, because if I'm Michael Carrick and I'm saying in them 17 games, I win like 11 of them, a few draws and a few losses, then I want the job, because I've proven myself in them 17 games. But that's down to the hierarchy to have that conversation with Michael Carrick, just to say, this is 17 games. Whatever happens, you are not getting the job at the end of the season. But it's a no-win situation for Michael Carrick, because if he goes in there and he doesn't do well, obviously I understand he'll be disappointed. But if he does do well, his stock's high, and there'll be other people looking at him and saying, well, yeah, he could be our future manager, because I do think he's a good young manager. He's a fantastic footballer, and I do think he'll be a top manager.
Do you think that any prospect of him being given the job full time and the temptation to do it is almost made easier for United because they're not in any cups, so he can't hide anything by winning a trophy? And we saw it with, for example, at Spurs last season. League form's awful, but win the Europa League. That fifth is the brief. If you get fifth or fourth, and if you get that, it's thank you very much, shake hands and move on.
Yeah, his job is to get them into the Champions League. If Michael Carrick does that, and fifth could be good enough to get into the Champions League, if he does that, he's done his job. And obviously he's done his job brilliantly, because I think a lot of people from the outside would be looking now and thinking, have Man United got a realistic chance of getting into them Champions League? Probably as it stands, no. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago where they were in the league, yeah, but the run and the results that they've been on been nowhere near good enough. But as I say, I wish Michael Carrick the best. I feel sorry for Man United fans. They're going to have to suffer for a long time. A lot of people said it might be 3, 4, 5 years. It could be longer than that they suffer at the moment. You can see there's a lot of disconnect between the owners and the fans at the moment. So that needs to be sorted out. I think everyone needs to come together, but that's only going to come together when Man United start doing well on the pitch, and at the moment they're not doing well. But I think Michael Carrick will do well. He'll get a tune out of the players. You know what it is, Rob? I watched the game yesterday against Brighton, and I'm thinking, you've only got the cup competition left. Why do you not play your strongest 11? And like Dan Khan just said there, they rested Luke Shaw. You don't need to rest Luke Shaw. You haven't got Europa League football or anything like that. All you've got is Premier League, and your only chance of winning the cup competition would have been FA Cup. If you'd got a good draw, you might have gone far in that cup competition, but Brighton were the better team. You're knocked out, and all you've got to concentrate now on is trying to get into that Champions League.
Because it was interesting when Ruben Amorim was sacked last week. I heard quite a lot of glass half full approaches to where Man United are, i.e. they're only 3 points off the top 4 at the moment. But what are they? 1 point above Sunderland, 1 point above Fulham, 2 above Sunderland, 3 above Everton. That the league is so squashed that it is difficult to sort of work out actually how good they are.
Exactly that, and you're spot on. It's so squashed. If you lose 2 games, you could drop into the bottom half of the table. You win 2 or 3 games in the bottom half, you could jump right. Look at Fulham 4 or 5 weeks ago. They were down near the foot of the table, not right near the bottom, but in them bottom 5 or 6. Now they jumped up to they're like 8th in the Premier League. So, and that looks like it's a good season, and that is because the league is so open. Apart from the top 3, everyone else is beating everyone else, and everyone's trying to go on a run at the moment. So that is why Man United are in that position, and that is why people think Man United are doing well. But it's covering over the cracks, and the fans will tell you that it's covering over the cracks. That club is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and it still is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and any manager would want that job. But it just needs to I've always said it, the recruitment at that football club, Rob, has been nowhere near good enough.
It was interesting, Darren Fletcher said after that game against Brighton yesterday, said, in difficult times, true character is going to show. So they have to dig in and make sure they want to be part of Manchester United's future. Is the worry when there's an interim manager in charge that a lot of those players will think, well, I'll be here longer than him?
Yeah, maybe, but...
We saw it a little bit with Ralph Rangnick, didn't we?
Yeah, you're right, but I don't know how a group of players can think... You're playing for Man United Football Club. It's hard for people. I don't know if it's people nowadays and how people's mentality is, but when I'm playing, if you get a chance to go and play for Man United Football Club, you'd be walking up the motorway to go and play for Man United Football Club. You're still putting on that red jersey. They're one of the most successful teams there is around in world football. You go away to any other country, everyone's wearing a Man United shirt. That's how well supported they are. And at the moment, I'm looking at the group of players and thinking, there is a lot that know what it's like to play for that football club. But and then you're looking, as I said, there's a big disconnect between the owners and the fans, and that doesn't help. When that starts happening, the fans are starting to get frustrated. I even spoke to a fan yesterday, said, I gave my ticket away because I knew we were going to lose to Brighton. You should not be thinking like that as a fan. So it's disappointing, but yeah, they're going to have to suffer a bit. But hopefully Michael Carrick can go in there and steady the ship. And you never know, they still have a chance because of the position they're in to finish in one of them Champions League spots.
If we assume that it goes down to 5th then,
yeah.
Liverpool 4th, are you going to lock the top 3 in and say that they'll all be fine?
Yeah, but I'm going to lock Liverpool in as well.
You're going to lock Liverpool in as well. So let's say it goes down to 5th.
Yeah.
You've got Brentford in 5th on 33.
Yeah.
Down to Spurs in 14th on 27.
They got, to be fair, there's 3 teams probably, and there's probably, you throw Chelsea into the mix because they'll come good. I think with Liam Rosinha, he's a good coach, and they've got world-class players, Chelsea. Chelsea should be up there anyway. They should be challenging where Liverpool are. And then you go Newcastle, who can go on a great run, who I think will be there or thereabouts. And then the other one you would think is Man United. But if you look at the squads, and you look at Newcastle, and you look at Chelsea, and you look at Man United squad, Man United have some good players, but those 2 other squads have better squads than Man United. So that's why I'd put them 2 ahead of finishing ahead of Man United this season.
So that is, I guess, the reason why they really have to emphasise a focus on the fact that they are the one team of those 3 you just mentioned playing once a week, and that Newcastle and Chelsea have Champions League, or Chelsea have all 4 competitions. Actually, exactly. both Newcastle and Chelsea.
Yeah, they have a lot of games coming, so they've got to utilise their squad. So that is why Man United should have the advantage because all they've got to concentrate on now is Premier League football, not even FA Cup football, Premier League football. So that is the biggest thing. Look, concentrate on the Premier League, get Michael Carrick in, get him to look at the players and his style of play, and in them 17 games, see if he can get a tune out of them and they can finish in that top 5 of the Champions League spot. If they finish in the top 5 of the Champions League, he's done a brilliant job. He'll be knocking on the door saying, give me the job at the end of the season. But he has to know what his role is when he's talking to the hierarchy. Because what happens, Rob, if he gets them into the Champions League? Does he just leave? He's going to want to stay, isn't it? It's Man United Football Club. So they're the conversations he'll have to be having.
That's what the point I go back to then. You've said it a few times in various answers about the size of this football club and where Manchester United wanted back. And Ruben Amorim said at the start of the season, look, we all know that actually finishing the Champions League isn't great. We want to be challenging to win the title. And I feel like the mistake was made with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that there was that famous win against Paris Saint-Germain and everyone got very starry-eyed and gave him the job when actually it's going to take an Omar Barada, whoever it is, to think if we want to really go back to being up there with Arsenal and City and teams like that it's going to take a Thomas Tuchel or a Carlo Ancelotti.
You know what it's going to take? Let the manager come in, manage the team. Like, I've said this many times, and we spoke about it on Soccer Saturday, me and Merce. Let me tell you something. Aston Villa, Unai Emery sorts out everything from top to bottom. Yeah, you already had a sporting director in there, but he's allowed to do his signings. Arsenal do the same, Man City do the same. There's no coincidence that those 3 teams are doing well this season. So if you're going to get a manager in at Man United, let him do the business. Let him run it. If you want Thomas Tuchel suffers no fools. He'll go in there and he'll want to do it his way. So if you want a top manager like that, or Enrique, who might become available if he leaves PSG, these are top managers. They want to do it their way. So that's what I'm going to say. This title of head coach, I don't like it. Let the managers choose the players and they have good relationships with their sporting director. As I just said, them top 3 teams, their clubs are run properly, and that's why they're doing so well at the moment, because the managers have the say. As ever, you're a few steps ahead, Clinton. We're going to get to that when we talk about Tottenham. No, it's just you're just a visionary. That's the problem with you, Clinton. Is it just good at my job?
Well, that's debatable. Don't push it that far. Let's instead talk to Dave Reed. Clinton has mentioned a few times about the quality of this Manchester United squad. What do we think then, Dave? Good evening, by the way, about the true value of these players.
Yes, Good evening, Rob. Good evening, Clinton. Let's talk about squad value. Clinton touched on it there. Michael Carrick then close to the job. How does this squad compare to the one that he took over for that brief stint in 2021 at Old Trafford? One way to look at the quality of players available at United to the head coach is to see the transfer value of the squad. Now, things to think about when we look at this. If you have a small squad with fewer players, the cumulative squad value is going to be smaller. Simple, right? Conversely, the more players you have, the more value the whole squad will hold. And it's pretty simple. The better player you are, the higher value you have. So with all that in mind, this kind of chart also gives us an insight into the head coach improving individual players. If players play better, their value rises. And there's also an opportunity for academy players, someone like Kobbie Mainoo, for instance, who on their introduction to a squad come through effectively with a value of 0, but can then add 50 or 60 million to the overall squad. So let's look at Manchester United's squad value. Going all the way back to 2018 here, with time elapsing along the x-axis. The Y is, of course, the squad value in pounds. Now, right at the start of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer time in charge at the end of 2018, United's squad value actually was at one of its highest points, more than 750 million. He had PK, De Gea, Pogba, Rashford, even Jesse Lingard as well. Now fast forward to 2021, when Michael Carrick took charge of United for 3 games at the back end of that year. United's squad value is down there. His first game in charge was a 2-0 victory over Villarreal in the Champions League. Then he took on Chelsea.
Michael Carrick has picked this Manchester United side. Chelsea will be looking over their shoulder. Can they see off Carrick's Manchester United?
United went into the game without a win in any of their previous 3 league games.
For the first time in this game, Bruno Fernandes with the boom it forward, and a mistake by Jorginho, and Jadon Sancho scores on the ultimate counter-attack for Manchester United.
But with 20 minutes to go, United gave away a penalty. Jorginho scored it, and it finished 1-1. Up next for Carrick was a visit from Arsenal, who took an early lead through Emil Smith Rowe. In it goes. It was United, though, who hit back. Bruno Fernandes with the equaliser. Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously in his second spell at the club, put United ahead. But that lead lasted just 2 minutes. Martin Ødegaard with an equaliser for Arsenal. With 20 minutes to go, United were awarded a penalty. Ronaldo scored. Carrick secured his first Premier League victory for United. So, time for Solskjaer and the time too. Michael Carrick there. You're looking at about £100 million drop-off in squad value. And the other thing to notice when we take a step back from this is that squad value peaks around the middle of each year. What happens then? Yeah, it's the summer transfer window. Pre-season optimism. Players are signed.
With Manchester United, where Michael Carrick is now the favourite to become the club's interim manager, with the two now in detailed discussions about the role. Our reporter Daniel Kahn is there for us. We can speak to Daniel now. Dan, very good afternoon to you. Just bring us up to speed then. What is the very latest on Carrick's arrival?
Yeah, afternoon, Joe. I mean, it feels like Manchester United have picked who they would like to see in this interim head coach role until the end of the season. As you mentioned there, Manchester United are due to have more detailed talks today with Carrick over that position. Now, we know they met him face-to-face last week on Thursday about this role. It feels like he impressed in those meetings with the likes of Director of Football Jason Wilcox, and now they're meeting again today to finalise those details over what it would look like if he took that position. Now, we also understand that they aren't planning any further talks with another candidate, that's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They also met face-to-face on Saturday to discuss a potential return for Solskjaer after being manager just 3 or 4 years ago. But it looks like Carrick is the man who could lead United into Saturday's Manchester derby. And it's very interesting that they've gone with him over the likes of Ruud van Nistelrooy and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer if they can get a deal sorted out by Wednesday is probably what they're looking at before the players come back into training.
And why exactly then, Daniel, has Carrick emerged as the front runner?
It's very interesting, Joe, because he's very different, you would say, to a few years ago when he was last in the backroom staff and also an interim head charge after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked. He was in charge for 3 games, 1 game against Villarreal, and you also had a game against Chelsea. And I think even in that short period, he showed he wasn't afraid of making big decisions on the pitch. He, not famously, but he made a big one in terms of dropping Cristiano Ronaldo in that 1-1 draw against Chelsea. He was put on the bench, and Carrick dealt with that situation incredibly well in the press before and after. And even Ronaldo spoke after his time at United very highly of Carrick in terms of his potential future as a manager. I think off the pitch and as well as on it, he's of course developed being a manager at Middlesbrough. He had a really good first season, of course, taking them to the playoffs. Maybe didn't end the way he wanted it to, but Carrick's obviously very different to a few years ago, and perhaps the tactical side of the game, maybe compared to what Solskjaer would have offered, maybe with his man management over the tactical side, maybe that's why United have chosen Carrick. Of course, he's someone that knows this club inside out. I've seen him recently as well in the last few months at different events, and he cares deeply about this city, what it does for the young people associated with Manchester United. But look, he's going to have to pick this squad and this club up after what feels like relatively an all-time low in the last decade after last night's FA Cup exit.
OK, Dan, for now, thank you very much. Well, let's get more reaction to the potential appointment of Carrick with his former Spurs teammate, Michael Dawson. Michael, a very good afternoon to you. What do you make of this then? Is Carrick the best choice of the shortlist that United drew up?
Good afternoon, Joe. Well, I mean, it looks like it's going to be Michael Carrick now. We thought last week that he was going to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and things change. And I think probably a week ago when I saw all this evolving, I'm thinking, were Manchester United ready to sack Ruben Amorim? Probably not. But I think his outburst in the post-match press conference against Leeds, they had no alternative. And then they were put in this position. Darren Fletcher took over for 2 games, and now it looks like it's going to be Michael Carrick. His affiliation with his football club, playing there and then being on the coaching staff. So he knows the football club. He knows what it's like. He's going in a different person than he was when he was a player. Even then going straight into the coaching scheme, he's been away, and he's been a manager himself. So he's coming back, different. He was always so calm. You see him, when he took over, he never got flustered. He made decisions. His time in charge, his 3 games. I watched when he just showed there the goal that was scored against Chelsea. He's just a calm personality in and around it. And I think this is what Manchester United need at this moment in time.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. I mean, he won those 5 league titles with United, was caretaker manager for a few games back in 2021. But he doesn't have a great deal of experience as a manager. Does that lack of managerial experience, is that a concern?
Well, he doesn't at Premier League level. He went into the Championship with Middlesbrough and did a good job. Unfortunately for them, he couldn't get them promoted. But he's coming back, more experience. Is it for long term? No, not in my opinion. It's only going to be till the summer, till a manager who is in a job somewhere, contracts run out, and then after the World Cup, they will be looking to appoint someone then. So I think it fits all parties that Michael Carrick goes in and try and stabilise this team and get some positivity around it, because there's an awful lot of negativity around Manchester United now. And you've got to realise they've still got an opportunity for Champions League, albeit hard, because I look at the performances and the players. Are they capable of chasing Liverpool down? Probably not. But I'm sure Michael Carrick, knowing him as a person, he will believe that he can get the best out of these players and certainly improve the performances.
The kind of long-term situation at United shortly, but just staying with Carrick for a moment, give us a bit more insight, because you played with him at Spurs in England. Did you always think he'd go on to be a manager?
Well, we were both a lot younger when we were together at Spurs, and then I played with him in England under 21s, and then also in the senior team. He's always a thinker. He was always a calm person in and around the camp, in and around the training ground. I was lucky when I went to Spurs, I had him sitting just in front of us. He was an elegant kind of player, calm, and that was him as a person on and off the field. And so when you reflect back and look and fast forward, you probably go, yeah, I could see him in the hot seat when the heat is turned up, you're under pressure. Nothing ever seemed to faze Michael Carrick. So he could be in the hot seat. He looks like he's going to be. And he will be in a pressurised situation at Manchester United, because we're always talking about them. I'd be one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yes, the team isn't anywhere near the levels of what I expect. And certainly myself growing up as a young kid, Manchester United were the best team. They're so far off it, but it has to try and galvanise this group and try and get better performance and get the best out of these players, because they're nowhere the levels that some of these players can be. They've got some good players, and they should be doing better than what they are.
Is there a danger, Michael, that United has actually become the impossible job?
It depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about Manchester United winning the league, yes, it is the impossible job at this moment in time. It's a rebuilding block. We thought when Ruben Amorim went in there, he needed time. And I do believe he would have been given more time had it not been that outburst in his post-match interview. I do believe that. I don't think they were looking to sack him, but ultimately they had no choice. When you criticise a hierarchy, you're always going to be coming under that. So it's a tough job, whoever goes in, and they need time. But we always say we don't get time in football. It's all about winning football matches. But I think if people see an improvement, certainly in the media side, we give them time, and that's what it's all about. The next game, as you see, Manchester City at the weekend, a huge game. Whoever will be in that hot seat, and the atmosphere will be electric, and they have to perform.
So you touched on it slightly, but long term, who do you think United should be targeting to take on this role?
When you look in the Premier League, people we were talking about Andorra Iraola doing an incredible job. Bournemouth, it wasn't too long ago, they were sitting second. Then they've been on a bad run. Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace, the same, but he plays in the back three. So I don't see them going down that route again. If this is a lot of this has been talked about, is the formations right and things like this, are you adaptable? I think Crystal Palace play a great way with a back three, the wing backs in Mitchell and Muniz. No surprise that they've sort of fallen off since Muniz has got injured. Do you go Marco Silva, who I'm a huge fan of, who I worked with? He's out of contract in the summer. Do they look someone like him, or do they look further afield of maybe someone who's managing a national team? Mauricio Pochettino was always a name that seemed to be linked with Manchester United. I'd like to see him back in the Premier League, whether they'll go for him or, Thomas Tuchel. Could Ancelotti be a pull still for him maybe after the World Cup? So only time will tell. I think a lot of us are speculating, but I'm sure the hierarchy is certainly looking at this moment in time in getting the next manager right. They thought they had it right in Ruben Amorim. Clearly wasn't.
Martí, que si no está es por motivos de fuerza mayor, así que todo el ánimo para él. Un abrazo grande y veremos si su Rayo le puede dar hoy una alegría.
En troncos de Sergio García junto a Verdú, cuando ya se cogen esas cartas secretas. A turno de Aitor Vives. Encara Aitor, arriba. Desviado el remate de Aitor Vives, la llega a tocar por Lechuga.
Días en los que quizá podrían haber tenido mejor resultado, los porteros han estado ahí.
Viene el balón para Manu. Precisamente un portero es quien le da el primer gol a Troncos. ¡Gol! En la frontal del área decide combinar sobre la figura de Paul Lechuga. Vértice del área, probará con el regate. No, la cambia entera. ¡Qué balón de Lechuga! Para Alegre, para adentro. ¡Gol! Pues espérate porque viene Fraile a esta línea de fondo, la pone Fraile, el balón para Poc, que recorta delante de Ferres. Poc, ¡qué parada abajo! De Manu Martín, lo hizo de fábula.
Ha señalado cesión.
Libre en directo, eso es.
Sí, libre en directo.
Ojo que la pone rápido en movimiento, los Troncos para adentro. Sergio. ¡Gol! Vamos al penalti, presidente. Lo tirará en paralelo a la portería Perchita. Perchita ante Lechuga. Le pega Perchita. ¡Lo ha parado! Con suspense, con incertidumbre, pero acabó sacando finalmente. Pues venga, todo tuyo. Ahí está, algo bajito, capo. Verdú. Contacto con la pelota en el carril central, abre precisamente para Vives. El centro acaba siendo portería porque evitaron que el pase de la muerte pudiese llegar. Pero si eres de Barcelona y quieres vivir la emoción de la última jornada en el Cupra Arena de tanto la Kings League InfoJobs como de la Queens League, puedes entrar también en el centro y el remate. Ahora te lo cuento porque es un golazo. ¡Gol! Frankie Purtí, irá Frankie para darle la vuelta al Rayo. Frankie lo ha parado. Lo ha parado Manu Martín. En la porfía con Ian, en todo caso no se aplica nada y viene el ataque ahora de los Troncos. ¡Lechuga! Román Alegre está bien, gol doble.
Gol doble para Rayo.
El capitán de los Troncos combina con Vives. Lechuga. Era muy difícil porque le botó justo en el momento. Un penalti shutout. Tanto sonoras como lumínicas del Cupra Arena. Sorroche para el tercero. Lechuga. Decide combinar sobre Paul Román. Aparece Román Alegre que filtra el envío. El remate para adentro. ¡Gol de oro! ¡Cántalo! ¡Gol! ¡Gol! Del Rayo de Barcelona. Llegar y besar el santo Joel Paredes.
Frankie Purtí, Prime MVP, por fin ha llegado esa victoria tan esperada para el Rayo.
Sí, ha costado mucho. La verdad que aquí ganar cuesta muchísimo y hay que valorarlo mucho. Y como ha dicho el míster, al final hoy era un partido amistoso que encarábamos como preparación para el partido donde nos jugamos la vida, que es el partido de play-out del Mundial. Y esperemos que esto nos sirva para encarar una buena dinámica y encarar ese partido de la mejor manera posible.
Hoy no ha podido estar el Presi, no sé si nos estará viendo desde casa y no sé si le quieres decir algo.
Yo creo que sí nos estará viendo. Le mando un fuerte abrazo. Esta semana ha sido una semana difícil para él y espero que le anime, tanto la victoria del femenino como la nuestra este fin de semana. Espero que le anime y que le ayude a pasar la semana de la mejor manera posible y decirle que le queremos mucho y que vamos a dar la vida para que el Rayo esté en el Mundial.
Ojalá que así sea. Enhorabuena. Gracias.